The massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador Sarah Chen's boots echoed against the polished floor. 200 species from across the galaxy watched as she approached the central podium, her human delegation, flanking her with grim determination. High Counselor Vexithara, a towering Zephyrian with iridescent scales, leaned forward in his floating throne. Ambassador Chen, surely this is merely a negotiating tactic. Humanity cannot seriously consider— "Withdrawal from the Galactic Council," Sarah interrupted, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation matrix. "Effective immediately." A ripple of shock pulsed through the assembled delegates. The Corvani delegation's chittering rose to a panicked crescendo. The normally stoic Lithians' crystalline forms flickered with agitation. Even the ancient Nexari, who had seen the rise and fall of entire civilizations, shifted uneasily in their energy containment suits. Counselor Thekmor of the militant Drakari species slammed his armored fist against his console. "This is preposterous. You cannot simply— Leave! No species has ever been treated as we have," Sarah cut him off again, her brown eyes blazing with barely contained fury. "For 37 years, humanity has served on this council. We've contributed our technology, our resources, our very lives to your causes, and what have we received in return?" She activated her holographic display, showing casualty reports that made several delegates avert their optical sensors. When the hegemony invaded Kepler 442, who led the ground assault? Humans. When the Void Plague threatened to consume the Andromeda trade routes, who volunteered for the suicide missions into infected space? Humans. When your precious core worlds needed defending, who bled and died in the void between stars? The chamber remained unnaturally quiet. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the vast space. Always humans. Always expendable humans. High Counselor Vexithara's throat sac pulsed nervously. "Ambassador, please. These decisions were made for the greater good." "Whose greater good?" Sarah's laugh was bitter. "When we requested aid after the Titan colony massacre, what did this council vote? Insufficient strategic value. When Earth's industrial capacity was overwhelmed producing weapons for your wars, and we begged for resource support, what was the response? Individual species must maintain self-sufficiency." She walked slowly around the chamber's perimeter, making eye contact with representatives who had once called themselves allies. But the final insult came last cycle. The Proxima Centauri Accords. Sarah's voice turned ice-cold. "A treaty that effectively makes human space a protectorate, strips our voting rights on military matters, and designates humanity as the Council's permanent enforcement arm. You want us to be your soldiers, your police, your expendable workforce, but not your equals." Counselor Yithana of the aquatic Nereidans floated forward in her mobility tank. "You must understand. Humanity's aggressive nature makes you unsuited for certain diplomatic responsibilities." "Aggressive?" Sarah whirled on her. "We're aggressive? The Drakari have glassed 17 worlds in the past century. The Zephyrians maintain slave colonies in 3 systems. The Corvani strip mine inhabited planets for rare minerals. But we're the aggressive ones because we actually fight back when attacked?" The truth hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Several delegates couldn't meet her gaze. "Here's what you never understood about humans," Sarah continued, her voice gaining strength. "We don't fight because we're aggressive. We fight because we refuse to bow. We refuse to accept that might makes right. We refuse to believe that some beings are worth more than others. She returned to the central podium, standing tall despite being dwarfed by the massive alien architecture surrounding her. You see, you made a fundamental miscalculation about my species. You thought that because we were young, because we were small, because we came from one little blue world on the galaxy's edge, that we would be grateful for whatever scraps you threw us. You thought we would accept being your attack dogs because we had nowhere else to go. Sarah smiled then, and something in that expression made several delegates instinctively recoil. But humans have something most of your species lost eons ago. We remember what it means to be free, and we would rather face the void alone than spend another day as your trained pets. The massive viewing screens around the chamber suddenly activated, showing space around the council station. Hundreds of human vessels hung in formation, from tiny fighters to massive dreadnoughts. The gathered fleet represented the entire human defense force, withdrawn from their positions across the galaxy. "This is madness!" Thekmore roared. "Without the Council's protection, humanity will be destroyed. The hegemony will return. Pirates will raid your colonies. You need us." Sarah's smile widened. "Do we? Let me share some interesting intelligence we've gathered. The hegemony invasion force that we barely repelled at Kepler 442, our analysis shows it was deliberately undermanned. The void plague that threatened the trade routes, it started in a Corvani bioweapons lab. The pirate raids on Outer Rim. Colonies? They've been flying ships with Zephyrian energy signatures." The chamber erupted in shouts and denials, but Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. "You've been manufacturing crises to keep us dependent, to justify your control, but we're done playing your games." High Counselor Vexithara rose from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. "If you leave, you will face the galaxy alone. No trade agreements, no mutual defense pacts, no support when the darkness comes for you." Sarah gathered her papers and turned toward the exit. Her delegation fell in behind her, their movements precise and military sharp. "High Counselor," she said without looking back, "humanity has been alone since the day we joined this council. The only difference now is that we're admitting it." As the human delegation reached the chamber doors, Sarah paused and spoke one final time. "Oh, and one more thing. Our withdrawal doesn't just mean we're leaving the council. It means we're withdrawing all human personnel from council operations. Every ship, every station, every research facility, every military unit. You'll discover very quickly just how much of your precious civilization has been running on human sweat and human blood." The doors sealed behind them with a soft hiss that sounded like a death knell. Within hours, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Defense grids going offline as human technicians departed, trade routes collapsing without human escorts, research projects grinding to a halt as human scientists packed their equipment. The great machine of galactic civilization, which had run so smoothly for millennia, began to shudder and crack, and in the depths of space, the human fleet turned toward home, carrying with them the knowledge that sometimes the most powerful statement a species can make is simply walking away. The galaxy had forgotten a crucial lesson about humanity. They might be young, they might be small, but they had never forgotten how to say no. And now, for the first time in 37 years, the council chamber felt exactly as empty as it truly was.